SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
In need of a new roof? Look no further than Mike's Economy Roofing. Locally owned and operated, Mike's Economy Roofing is your go-to for quality shingle roof replacements. Don't wait. Call Mike today at 601-757-6748 for that complete new roof you've been dreaming of.
This is Gerard Gibert, and thank you for listening to MidDays here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
MidDays with Gerard Gibert is on the air. MidDays with Gerard Gibert is powered by C-Spire. Power your home or business with C-Spire Fiber. To learn more, visit supertalk.fm/C-Spire. C-Spire Fiber powers SuperTalk Mississippi. Get ready to go beyond the headlines and join a meaningful conversation with people from around the state. You're listening to MidDays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to MidDays, SuperTalk Mississippi. I'm your host, Gerard Gibert, on location in Tupelo, Mississippi for 7 days for the troops. We're at the Antler in Tupelo, Mississippi. Rhino safe and sound back in the SuperTalk headquarters studio. We'll be guiding you through the middle of your day with facts, fodder, and fine music on this
Friday Eve.
Did you have to check the calendar there?
No, Lance had turned my mic down because he does that.
Oh, I got you. Well, who turned on the dang air conditioner this morning here, Rhino? It's a little chilly.
You can blame Rebecca. She was talking about how it's been so spring-like before the first day of spring.
Well, is this not the vernal equinox today, right?
Oh, yeah. Spring started at 4 this morning.
Wow. It didn't feel like it, though.
Not
particularly,
particularly,
no.
no.
And a little precipitation en route, but it looks like the clouds are giving way. We're pleased to be here. This is a really cool venue, all decorated up appropriately. The table's set, if you can see us on video there with red, white, and blue. And, man, I'm so proud to have all the flags of our armed forces and the American flag, of course, behind me. What a neat set, neat venue. We're looking forward to a great day of talk and interviews. So we got to start out by talking about the old Federal Department of Education. If the president has his way, Rhino, it looks like it may be a no more.
Going the way of the dodo.
The budget, folks, for the Department of Education, about $280 billion. Most of those funds are allocated to grants. You think that a lot of this money finds its way into the classroom. I'm here to tell you it does not. Most of it actually goes to benefit adults, not children. Now, you don't think about the Department of Education as being associated with benefits for adults, but it is. And it's honestly, Rhino, it's a slush fund. Is that not true? It's a dang slush fund for adults that tap into all these ridiculous grants. And also, of course, student aid, which has been, I would say, to a great extent, a disastrous program. It certainly could have been handled a whole lot more. And this has been something talked about by Republicans for quite some time. Let's end the Federal Department of Education. And this president looks like he might just get it done. Now, there's some question as to whether or not a simple executive order could do away with the Department of Education. And you know it will be challenged like so many of the other executive orders. Of course, we've got lawmakers in robes, as the saying goes, concerning some of these judges who have decided to dictate foreign policy and even ordering the president to turn that plane around that's headed to Venezuela full of all these thugs and murderers that have entered our country because the prior president just opened up the borders and invited them right into the United States of America. They're up to no good. the Tren de Agua folks. So he says, yeah, turn that plane around, bring them back. They are challenging every order that the president is issued. Not every, but many of them. The birthright citizenship order, the USAID funding. All of this, folks, is likely headed to the Supreme Court. But these judges truly are activists, in my view. They're no longer executing blind justice, I think it's fair to say. Many of these appointees from the Obama and Biden eras, and they just don't want the Trump agenda to go through. They don't want it to be executed upon. So I just don't really understand what that's all about. Somebody on the text line said El Salvador, not Venezuela. Am I missing something there, Rhino? Did I misstate that? Are they being returned to El Salvador? I thought they came from Venezuela.
Yeah, I think they came from Venezuela. They're going to the max security prison in El Salvador.
Okay, gotcha. So they're being returned there. But the bottom line is they're being flown out of the country into another one, which is where they should be. They should be expelled from this country. That's the main thing. But we got an activist judge that says, no, turn around that plane, Mr. President. You know, throughout the presidential campaign, it seems like on a daily basis, the popular fear-mongering rhetoric coming out of the Democrats was, this is the end of democracy should the president 45 be elected as president 47. No, the end of democracy is when the judicial system in this country is politicized and weaponized because they just don't happen to like the person in the White House that was duly elected by the people. That's a threat to democracy, because that's not the way our system is designed and supposed to work. It's certainly not in accordance with the founders' vision. I loved it the other day when Tom Holman, in responding to a journalist, asked the question about the president relying on an old law, 1798 law, to expel many of these invaders into our country. The age of the law shouldn't matter. His response was, well, the Constitution's pretty old, and we still follow it, don't we? I mean, that was like perfect. They couldn't have set him up for anything better. Even though Congress had to fund it, didn't Jimmy Carter create the DOE with an executive order? That is the case. And so that's why I think the argument could go in favor in the Supreme Court, should it make it that far, for the president's essentially abolition of the Department of Education. And if you do a little digging into some of the stuff the Department of Education at the federal level has funded and been involved in, of course you'll find, no surprise, all sorts of activities and initiatives and programs that are consistent with the three gods of the Democrat Party: climate change, race, and radical gender ideology. You'll find that there's lots of money that you have sent to the federal government that's flowed out into these various programs and grants and really just scams at the end of the day to support such issues. We've also got continued defiance, while we're on that subject, of the president's executive orders concerning transgenderism. He warned, if you continue to support and condone and facilitate this nonsense, you're going to lose federal funding. We've still got defiance coming from Maine and the latest report from Illinois. Illinois public school staff forced girls to change in front of a boy and stood guard in the locker room to make sure they couldn't escape. And a parent speaking out against it. Thank God. Good for her. She says her daughter was forced to use, a particular parent actually went public and said her daughter was forced to use the bathroom and locker room with a male. When girls complained and didn't want to change in front of a male for gym class, school staff went into the locker room to make sure Now, do you believe me that these people worship this radical gender ideology? Why is this happening in our schools? This has no place in schools. This is insane. Well, I hope they do lose their federal funding. It's ridiculous. And not only that, I submit that this mother, this family, this child has had their civil rights violated. And the mother has actually filed a complaint with the Trump Department of Justice. They violated Title IX, is what their contention is. I agree. Trump's executive order bans boys from accessing locker rooms. It's insane that we even have to do this, but that is absolutely where we are in this country. All right, later on in the program, I'm going to get Rhino to play a clip. It features Chuck Schumer, the Senate Minority Leader, in his appearance on The View earlier this week. I'll give you a hint. He said several things that I actually agree with. I know you find that rather astounding that I agree with the senior senator, the liberal senator from the great state of New York. But when we return, it's Scott Burns. He's the co-founder of 7 Days for the Troops. Stay with us.
It's all right. Even if the sun don't shine, well, it's all right. We're going to the end of the line.
For all your This segment of Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Let's do this.
On SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Let's go.
It's Middays. We are live today. The Element Wealth Studio has been relocated to Tupelo, Mississippi at the Antler. We're here for 7 Days for the Troops. We're pleased to welcome now, it's Scott Burns, co-founder of 7 Days for the Troops. Scott, thanks for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me. We're excited about our event this afternoon.
Place looks great.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Really does. You guys are ready. So tell us about 7 Days for the Troops and what services you provide to our precious veterans.
Well, 7 Days for the Troops is a veteran nonprofit that started 19 years ago on an idea. I was sitting at home. I'm a Marine Corps veteran. I got injured when I was in, and the height of the Gulf War was going on, and I heard a story about some kids that were raising money to buy calling cards to send overseas. So I wanted to do something to help them, and so I built a tower in the parking lot of the mall in Tupelo, Mississippi, and I camped out on top of it for 7 days. And that one event turned into now a 19-year venture. We're a veteran nonprofit, and we have a record of 100% of every donated dollar has gone to help veterans.
Wow.
We don't have a paid staff. We don't we don't use donated dollars to pay expenses. We use our donated dollars to do things like pay utility bills and build tiny homes for veterans and wheelchair ramps. And this year we've been able to, there was a father that reached out to us that was a veteran that had a young child that passed away and couldn't cover the funeral expenses, so we were able to help with that. We do, work with other veteran nonprofits to help fund some of the projects that they have, and so we're able to do those things and help veterans in emergency situations.
And by the way, folks, you can donate at the website 7, all one word, 7daysforthetroops.org. Is that right?
That is correct. Yeah. And I also tell people all the time, if you don't want to go through the hassle of jumping on the website, finding the donation link, feel free to send me a text to 662-407-9789. That's 662-407-9789. And you can send me a text and say, I want to donate, and I'll send you a link to how you can donate. and just be confident in the fact that 100% of every dollar that you donate will go to help veterans.
So, Scott, are you servicing veterans primarily in the region, in the area, or do you go beyond that?
I go beyond that, and we are teaming up. We're going to make the announcement tonight, so I guess I'm going to break it live here on SuperTalk. But there's an organization that I've helped over the last couple of years called Purple Heart Homes. And we've had 2 projects in Tupelo where we had veterans that lost a home due to a tornado, and another gentleman we found out that was living in a storage building. And so I reached out to my partners at Purple Heart Homes and said, hey, I've got this veteran, I need your help. And they built and delivered 2 tiny homes from Statesville, North Carolina. And so we have decided that we're really good at what we do as far as raising money, but we're a small nonprofit, and my reach is small. And so we are going to do a collaboration, and we're forming a Purple Heart Homes chapter in Mississippi, which will be able to help even more veterans in Mississippi. But I take the 7 Days for the Troops event all over the country. I travel with my tower, and I build my tower. I've been to Texas and North Carolina and Louisiana, and so when we do an event in an area, we try to keep most of the money that we raise in that area to help veterans in that area.
So how big a problem is this exactly, Scott? We hear a lot about the plight of our veterans, and many, especially those who have engaged in combat in particular. Of course, they're going to return. They have challenges. They have issues, and sometimes it feels like that the federal government maybe doesn't do enough, and there are voids that need to be filled. Is that kind of where your organization comes into play?
Yes, and I'm a veteran. I'm a 100% disabled veteran. I'm a double amputee due to an injury that I received that later led to a second amputation. And even in my case, because of when I got injured and how I got injured, there are certain programs that I don't necessarily qualify through the VA. Now, I can sit here and complain and argue about whether or not I think I should or shouldn't or whatever. However, that's why I started 7 Days for the Troops, is because it's real easy to sit and complain, but if you don't do anything, if you don't make action, and so that's why we try to fill the gaps in veterans' needs. And for instances, I had somebody reach out to me. I walked in on the tail end of a phone call the other day where the young lady, the Lee County Veteran Service Officer, was talking to a veteran. It's a 100-year-old Marine Corps veteran, wow. Served in World War II. He was not injured in combat. He's just an old veteran. Mm-hmm. And so, but he's in the point now that he needed a hospital bed and a lift chair. Well, right now there's not a program at the VA that covers that. Now, do I think there should be? Yes. He's a 100-year-old World War II veteran. He should get whatever he needs. But instead of sitting there trying to go through the system of the VA, I reached out to contacts that I have, and within a couple hours, we had a bed promised and a lift chair promised. That's and awesome. So we have built a network of other individuals that we may not can solve every problem, but at least know how to reach out to different groups to help.
We're talking to Scott Burns, co-founder, 7 Days for the Troops. That's the number 7. That's also the website, 7daysforthetroops.org. That's where you can make a donation to this organization. How do you find veterans in need? Do they contact you? You identify them? Somebody maybe notifies you about a situation?
We've actually, in the last, especially the last 4 or 5 years, have gotten a relationship with a lot of the veterans counselors and different people in the area that know what we do, and they will call us up and say, hey, I've got this veteran that's having a problem paying their rent this month. And so we'll help that way. Family members will reach out to us. We are getting more where veterans are opening up and saying, hey, I need help. Because that's been an issue that veterans were like, I don't know, I don't want to, somebody else needs it more than me. But your families know what that veteran needs, and so now they've encouraged veterans to reach out and to kind of ask for that help, because anybody out there listening, whether you're a veteran or you're just an individual that's going through something, it's okay not to be okay. And so don't be afraid to reach out and say, hey, I need a little help.
Sure.
Because if you sit there and you wallow in that I need help stage, then it really becomes a much larger issue down the road, when you could probably make your life a lot easier by just going to somebody and saying, hey, today I don't have it. I need it. And I think we get so caught up in the fear of asking. And so that's that's why I do what I do, is because we're able to reach those people. I talk to more people that are amputees that aren't veterans, that see that how I interact with everybody, and that I don't let my legs bother me, and so we've been able to open doors just because people know that we're willing to help, and that we're not going to judge you because you called us and asked for help. And we don't always we don't always guarantee that we're going to be able to help the person when they call us, but we do guarantee that we're going to try to put them in front of somebody that might be able to help them.
Is it a gratifying, rewarding experience for you to help these veterans?
It is. It's one of those things where me individually, I can never write a $10,000 check to help help a veteran. But I know how to get a whole lot of people together that we have the like mind. Tonight at this event, we're going to have people and businesses in this building that when it comes to business, they're competitive. They're wanting their own business. However, tonight they're coming together and saying, when it comes to helping our veterans, we're on the same page. And I think that's what we've got to do. That's what we've got to continue to realize, that every day that there is men and women that have signed up that says, today, if need be, I will lay down my life for you.
How long have you been holding this event?
Well, this is the first. Okay. So this is the inaugural 7 days for the troops, Southern Salute to the Troops dinner. And this was my way of, in a couple of years, next year will be my 20-year anniversary of the tower. Okay. And I'm 53 years old. So I started looking at what can I do to replace the tower. And so I decided to do this event in hopes to build it to a point where I could step off the tower and know that we still had funds coming in. Yeah. Now, when I booked the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, back in July of last year, he was supposed to come October of last year. I had no clue that he was going to have to cancel in October, reschedule for March, and then he's going to get nominated to be the Secretary of Defense, and then he's still going to come do our event. And so we've tried really hard to let people know that this is not a political event. Secretary of Defense is not coming in his role as Secretary of Defense. He has that title, but he's still coming as veteran Pete Hegseth to show his support and sponsor veterans.
That's awesome. Well, we appreciate you coming on, and from the looks of the venue here, it looks like you're going to have a packed house tonight, and hopefully you'll do what you're looking to do, which is raise some money to help these veterans.
Well, like I said, our goal tonight is $100,000. That can build a tiny home, that can build wheelchair ramps, that can pay utility bills. There's so much that we can do with that little bit of money, and I will tell you, be part of the first ones to get in on that, and send us a text and say, hey, we want to make a donation. And like I said, just text me 662-407-9789, 662-407-9789, and say, hey, I want to give, and we'll send you a link.
Scott Burns, co-founder of 7 Days for the Troops. We're coming right back from Tupelo, Mississippi.
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
It is on
SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays live from Tupelo, Mississippi at the Antler. We're here for 7 Days for the Troops. That's the number 7daysforthetroops.org. That's the website you can go to if you'd like to donate to this very important work this organization does for our veterans in need. Also, shout out to our broadcast sponsors for today, MedPlus, John Logan, Sprout Insurance, Tim Tubb, and Mitchell Distributing, John Ham. So we appreciate them for helping us out. Also, lunch provided by Tallahatchie Gourmet in New Albany and Oxford, Jeff Olson. So on the C Spire text line, let's see here. We had someone who pointed out that the judge in question, the one that ordered the ban on this deportation order, was appointed to the federal bench by George Bush. He was elevated to the D.C. Circuit by President Barack Obama, but he has rendered several, if not many, pro-Trump opinions in order, so I would be careful here saying that he's a left-wing nut. Well, I didn't really say that. I just said I thought he was an activist, and I would also say this. people change, and I think this judge, from everything we can tell about him, is an anti-Trump person these days. Now, you may disagree with that, but from all reports, that appears to be the case. This would be Judge Boasberg, B-O-A-S-B-E-R-G, and he's the one that really chided the Justice Department for breaching its responsibility. I don't know about that. So, the president, of course, is calling for his impeachment. And Chief Justice Roberts really condemned the president for calling for impeachment of this judge. It wouldn't surprise if we don't see further action on that from some of the Republicans in the Congress. Now, another judge, and that would be Anna C. Reyes, was appointed by President Joe Biden. She is the first Latina and the first openly LGBT person to serve as a district court judge in Washington. She was born in Uruguay, moved to Spain, later immigrated to Louisville, Kentucky as a child. She's the one who just banned the president's order blocking transgenders from serving in the United States military. Now, is it not appropriate to at least assume, I don't even want to call it assume, but hold that a transgender person is experiencing gender dysphoria and may in fact be unstable and unfit to serve in the U.S. military? Is that not a fair argument? It's a privilege to serve. And, of course, this judge says that the armed services has a history of excluding marginalized people. I say again, anytime you see that word marginalized, that term marginalized people, you always get a little suspicious of what the true goal is. That's what the federal judge wrote in a 79-page decision blocking the president from enacting a policy, really rebuked the Pentagon's development of the policy. Now, did the president not tell us that he was going to do this? And so we'll see. But I think, once again, this is going to land in the Supreme Court. It will be interesting to see the ruling handed down. Of course, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, he has vowed to appeal this ruling. He says, we are appealing this decision and we will win. There are two plaintiffs in this lawsuit, Second Lieutenant Nicholas Talbot and Major Erica Vandal. They express relief. These, of course, are two individuals who are transgender people serving in the U.S. military. We'll see where this goes. It's just astonishing to me that we're even having this discussion and this debate and this controversy in this country. It's incredible when you just think about it at its core. Wow. Also, on the C Spire text line, Louis from the 662 says, Gerard, did you see Tim Walz is celebrating the fall in Tesla stock? A friend of mine from that area says Minnesota's public retirement system is heavily invested in Tesla. Do you think that Walz knows that? Doubtful. I mean, you're right, Louis. He was gloating about Tesla stock dropping. What did he say, Rhino? He installed some sort of app on his iPhone. I guess he's just discovering that you can install apps that you can use to track.
No, it was even worse than that. He did the whole, I don't know if you know this, but on the iPhone they have an app that shows you stocks.
Oh, my God.
Like it's some sort of new thing that hasn't been there for over a decade.
It is true, Louis. The state of Minnesota has 1.6 million shares of Tesla in its retirement fund and 211,000 shares of Tesla in its non-retirement fund. Yeah, a significant investment. And this fool goes out there and expresses happiness glee at the fact that the stock is tanking, and in doing so is actually hurting the investment portfolio, the value of the fund used to pay retirement benefits. And, of course, my guess is the Minnesota Treasury has some cash that it is also invested. It's typical of state treasuries to have available assets that they invest for that purpose to produce a return, rather than just letting that money sit in a bank account that's not really earning any sort of investment return. So that makes sense. No, I don't think he knows. I don't think he understands it. To Rhino's point, a guy that says, hey, wait, did you know that you can download an app that would track the stock market for you? I'm pretty sure.
You don't even have to download it. It comes on the phone.
Well, that's true. It's automatic. You're right.
And the sad thing is, it's not even the dumbest thing he said in the last week or so.
Well,
he was on the Gavin Newsom podcast that Gavin Newsom's doing to try to make himself look more moderate instead of the bleeding heart blowhard that he is. And he said that he could kick Trump supporters' asses.
That's right, he sure did. Keep leaning into that crap there, Tim. Rhino, can you cue up the Chuck Schumer sound bites from the interview on The View?
And you know what their attitude is? I made my money all by myself. How dare your government take my money from me? I don't want to pay taxes. Or, I built my company with my bare hands. How dare your government tell me how I should treat my customers, the land and water that I own, or my employees. They hate government. Government's a barrier to people, a barrier to stop them from doing things. They want to destroy it. We are not letting them do it, and we're united.
Okay, good.
Wow, I'm in concert with the senator here, Rhino. He's right. I did build it with my bare hands, and all the other millions of entrepreneurs in this great country. Yes, we don't want government confiscating the assets that we create, that we sacrifice to produce, because the market said, I like what you guys are doing. I think I'll buy some of that. That's the way it works there, Chuck. And yes, we don't want your greedy, invasive little government fingers in our boardroom telling us how to manage our staff and treat our customers. The market does one heck of a job of making sure that we stay in line in that respect. And no, we don't want to send our taxes to you for stupid crap, like sending it to these ridiculous foreign countries for all kinds of woke causes. You're right. I totally agree with you. We don't want you in our businesses. We don't want to keep sending you money that you just piss away. Yeah, I agree with Chuck here. I missed something in that little soliloquy from Chuck there, Rhino? I think I covered it.
Yeah, he's insufferable. That's about the most radio-friendly way I can describe him.
Oh, man. He got it right. I'm in concert with him. I actually agree with him. You did properly describe the attitude of those who power this country. Thank God for the private sector. Didn't we just see that in all of its splendor a couple of days ago when SpaceX achieved something that the government was unable to do under Joe Biden? Yeah. They don't like government. Yeah, you're right. We don't like government when you poke your nose where you shouldn't.
Is it any wonder people don't like government when it's full of people that act and are like Chuck Schumer?
It's totally true. Completely true.
I mean, I wouldn't want him in a glee club, let alone governing.
Oh, that's so true. On the C-Spire text line, don't let Tesla fool you that technology is on the way. Oh, I'm not fooled. I have great hopes and tremendous confidence that the stock, just like most of the technology positions right now, are declining for a lot of other different reasons. I have complete faith and confidence that all of them will be up, up, up. My bet is on the American innovator, and there's none better perhaps in the world right now than Elon Musk. He just demonstrated that to us with his his SpaceX retrieval of the stranded astronauts. Coming right back with Scott Burns at 7 Days for the Troops.
Are we going to do this? Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Keep rolling. 3,
on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It is middays. We're at 7 days for the troops in Tupelo, Mississippi. We're pleased to welcome back Scott Burns, co-founder, 7 days for the troops. So, man, you guys are all ready. What time's the event tonight, Scott?
Doors open.
Go ahead.
There we go. Doors open at 4:45 for our VIP and cocktail hour, and then general admission is at 5:45.
Gotcha.
And before I forget, I want to give you a gift while I'm up here.
Thank you.
I know technically radio people aren't supposed to receive gifts, but this is a special challenge coin from our event, and I wanted to make sure that you had one.
I love it. I will add it to my collection that I've received, excuse me, from many members of the military that have done the same thing. It's been pretty cool, and I have that on my desk right next to my main computer, so I look forward to that. Pardon me, I got a little frog in my throat here.
Well, hey, I'll cover the show for you. What y'all want to talk about today out there in Mississippi? We can talk
back.
Politics. We can talk veterans. Definitely talk about veterans.
I think this is about the fifth one I've received, and I got introduced to the tradition by a friend of my son's who served in the U.S. military. I think made it all the way to captain in the U.S. Army, and he introduced this to me. He was actually playing golf with my son on the golf course. We were on the driving range, and he came over, and I said, "What are you doing?" He extended his hand, and it had the coin in it, and I cherish every one of them, so I appreciate it very much.
I'm going to show you something special about this one, only because you mentioned golf. If you pop it down, it's got
it's a marker,
a ball marker.
That's awesome.
So there you go.
Man, will I ever use that and enjoy it, and I can assure you my patriotic friends will be jealous of that as well. So,
hey, and why I've got you, I do want to take time to say thank you to a couple of my sponsors that have helped make this possible, because we had mentioned it earlier that this event is covered because of our sponsors, and we don't use donated dollars. MedPlus here in Tupelo is our presenting sponsor, and they actually are the only clinic in Tupelo that's allowed to see VA patients for like colds and things like that. So they're contracted with the VA, and a lot of veterans in the area don't know that, there are clinics like that in their area that the VA clinics locally are not clinics you can go to if you have a cold.
Okay.
And so they have networked with some other organizations, and ours here in Tupelo in North Mississippi is MedPlus, and you can go get your common cold check and all that.
Just minor sort of ailments.
Elements, and then also want to mention while we're on the air, because this will be good for the statewide audience. In October, one of our big supporters is the Southern Heritage Air Foundation down at the Vicksburg Tallulah Airport. And they actually are having a huge air show in October, where I will have my 7 Days for the Troops tower built, and we'll be raising money as part of 7 Days for the Troops at that location October 18th and the 19th. And it's going to be a fun event. And then I'm also going to be doing my fundraising event in Pearl the week of Veterans Day.
Okay.
And so I'll be at the Outlets of Mississippi there in Pearl. Yeah. And so we'll build the tower, and I'll be there on Veterans Day, and we'll be feeding veterans out there that day on Veterans Day and all that good stuff.
Very cool. Yeah, over there near Trustmark Park.
That's it.
Yeah,
exactly.
So just looking at all the seats and the tables, it just looks fantastic, by the way, and so patriotic, all decorated up in the red, white, and blue, including the beautiful flower arrangements in red, white, and blue on every table. How did you go about inviting all these people and getting them to come?
Well, most of our advertising has been social media and word of mouth.
Okay.
Now, I will say that it picked up quite amount after the confirmation of Secretary of Defense Hegseth.
Sure.
And the good thing about it is we wanted really to focus on the fact that this is a veterans event. It's a fundraising event for veterans. And so it does not matter who's coming today, whether they're a politician or a former politician. Everybody that is attending the event had to buy a ticket.
Okay. Very cool. So tell the folks, how much do you expect to raise tonight? What's your goal?
My goal tonight is $100,000 tonight. So between now and 9 o'clock tonight, our goal is to raise $100,000.
And again, all that money goes to provide services to the vets, right?
Yeah, anything, like I said, from wheelchair ramps to utility bills to a tiny home for a veteran.
Yeah.
I mean, just an example of a veteran that I know right now that we're trying to help is I have a young lady that somebody reached out to me on her behalf that was gifted a tiny home and put on their property, but for whatever reason the utilities didn't get hooked up, the plumbing and electrical and all that. And so some of the funds that we use tonight will be to get those utilities ran for her so that she can enjoy her tiny home.
Okay.
And so there's all kind of different things that people reach out to us for and ask us for, and we try, we buy groceries. We have people that reach out to us and say, hey, I need grocery money, and we do what we can to try to fit those gaps. But one of the things that I didn't talk about earlier, but I want to make sure people understand is if somebody's reaching out to us because they're having issues paying a utility bill, we kind of look at the big picture and we see, okay, they've got multi-months of utility bills that they haven't paid. We don't just give them money. We try to figure out a solution to help them so they're not in that situation next year.
And I have to keep repeating it. Yep, got you. Scott Burns, co-founder, 7 Days for the Troops. We're in Tupelo, Mississippi today for 7 Days for the Troops. What a great organization this is. Go to 7daysforthetroops.org and make a donation. We're stepping aside for a break. It's time for Fox News and SuperTalk News. In the next hour, we've got the mayor of Tupelo, Todd Jordan. Stay with us.
Hour of Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by the Mississippi Business Journal. Visit msbusinessjournal.com. Scott Coopwood, publisher and president.
Welcome to the show that challenges you to think deeply and look beyond political posturing. You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's hour 2 of Middays, live from Tupelo, Mississippi at the Antler. We're here for 7 Days for the Troops. Go on out to the website. I just did it, by the way. Rhino just went out and made a $100 donation to this incredibly worthy cause, and I encourage all of our audience out there to head over to 7daysforthetroops.org and give whatever you can, folks, to help these people out. Man, it's just so sad to think about the plight of many of our veterans that just need simple things, just like you heard Scott describe. And just a little money can go a long way to helping them out with that sort of stuff. So please be generous and think about our wonderful veterans. Does it not also, Rhino, when you think about it, just aggravate that the Democrats seem to show more deference to illegals that come into this country and shower them with all sorts of benefits and put them up in luxury hotels and feed them and give them health care and education and cell phones and all kinds of other crap?
Well, it justifies their friends and family and associates working at NGOs getting paid tons of money that came right out of your paycheck.
That's exactly right, and that's what we've learned since the Doge team has been in Washington doing a scan of all these scammed up computers. Now, you've seen some reports on that these computers just issue checks, just send money out without any regard for, hey, do you have the money to do that? You couldn't operate your household that way, but that's exactly how our federal government operates. And it's the reason we've got $37 trillion of debt that they don't seem to care about. Oh, who cares about that? Just send more money out. Let the good times roll, as they say. And you're so right. Now we're finding out that there's all sorts of NGOs and organizations and money laundering, essentially, is what it looks like, where these computers just automatically, electronically, just issue payments without any support, any order for those payments. They don't care. Just send it on out. It truly is ridiculous. So, but hopefully we've got somebody paying attention to that and putting a stop to it. I'm optimistic that we're going to see massive change in the federal government to stop all this ridiculous money laundering. Everybody, it seems like that, or part of the recipient class of all that money, it's like, well, I'm entitled to that. I'm entitled to. Is that why
Stacey Abrams got $2 billion to buy energy-efficient appliances?
It's exactly why. I'm entitled to it.
Is that why seemingly every judge that has gone against Trump's executive orders has a wife or a daughter or a son or a cousin working in an agency or for an NGO?
Short answer, yes. So, on the C Spire text line, Tim and McGee says, I wish that the federal judge that wants those El Salvador gang members back, we'd just get them and drop them off in his community, in his home. So I got to track some breaking news here, folks. SuperTalk News, our fantastic news department, just is now posting a message that the Mississippi House of Representatives and Senate have agreed on a plan to phase out the state's income tax and cut the grocery tax. The bill now heads to the desk of Governor Tate Reeves. So don't have any other details at this point. I mean, this is really literally hot off the press. So Rhino and I will keep checking with that and see what that looks like. I'm honestly not sure. I suspect that we've got some sort of mostly a plan that resembles the Senate approach. That's my guess, because there's no increase in the general sales tax. That is what the House's plan incorporated. Don't see anything with respect to PERS or the fuel tax. So we'll see what happens. We'll get on that as soon as we get more details. So what happens if the Trump administration just ignores these idiot liberal judges' rulings against them, says Jimmy from Enid. Update me here, Rhino. I believe that's exactly what happened with respect to the deportation of these Tren de Aragua gang that the president put on an airplane and sent to El Salvador. And that's getting a lot of rebuke, by the way. It's no surprise from Venezuela's communist Maduro. He says that the U.S. deportation of migrants to El Salvador is a kidnapping. And he backs this judge's calls for their return. A kidnapping. Buddy, we did you a favor, because just as the president always insisted, you sent us the worst members of your society. Just dumped them into this dang country, opened up your jails and did that. The president was absolutely right about that. Absolutely right about that.
And if he continues to ignore the stays put in place by activist judges, eventually the stays will make it to the Supreme Court, and fingers crossed, the Supreme Court will tell the activist judges, stay in your lane, Article 2, go read it.
Well, exactly. And like we said earlier, you want to see what the threat to democracy looks like, and look no further than these activist judges who are dictating foreign policy. And in this case, I mean, you're deporting people that are here illegally. Then you layer onto that the fact that they're terrorizing Americans and doing damage and destruction and physical harm. What else do we need to expel them from this country? I mean, I would say this is the president doing his job. Unfortunately, the prior president wanted no part of that. Like we said, gave more deference to these thugs that he allowed into the country. He created the dang problem that this president is having to clean up. Oh, my gosh. Do Tater and his cronies think we won't see the tax swap and overall tax increase? Well, where did you get that from? This is on the C Spire tax line. This is in light of our announcement when we started this segment that apparently the House and the Senate have agreed on a plan to phase out the income tax and cut the grocery tax.
Anybody calling it a tax swap is somebody that's too lazy to do the math.
Well, this one doesn't even have an increase in the general sales tax. I suspect it does include, because both sides agreed with, some increase in fuel taxes, but this ain't a tax swap. It's just not. We're eliminating the tax on work. Now, I haven't dug into the details yet. Thomas and Greenwood said it's not what I want, but it's lower taxes, so it's a win. Okay. Allies, Maduro and U.S. federal judges, man, it sure does seem like it, doesn't it? I totally agree. Oh, wow. So how is this a Democratic issue? Both parties are in Congress approving this mess. Also, the president before Biden was Trump. So whom? What are they talking about here?
That's another one of our naysayers that never really actually has a point. They just like to flap their gums via text.
I got you.
They're willfully ignorant and always will be because their head's so far up their hind end they don't know what the rest of the world smells like anymore.
Unbelievable. Speaking of which, I got to pass this on. Europe, no surprise, Rhino, once again has declared war on an American technology company, this time Apple in the crosshairs. I'm just about sick of the EU constantly dreaming up all sorts of action and lawsuits that they throw at American technology companies. And it's all because you don't have any Europe. Your socialist economic system does not promote, does not encourage innovation. It doesn't produce it. Hell, you take more time off than you do work. That's why. So you're happy to use all this technology to power your society and your economy, but you're also quite quick to attack them with all sorts of stupid regulations and lawsuits. In this case, they're asking Apple to effectively hand over their intellectual property to competitors. This is insane, including companies whose business model relies on copying others, because we saw that really thrive during the 70s with the Japanese automakers that were taking American vehicles apart, reverse engineering them, and then sending their vehicles back over here. Finally, the American automakers got smart about that. We innovate, they regulate. That's pretty much the way it works in Europe. I'm really tired of their socialist behavior. That's what the Democrats want to impose in this country. Well, we're taking a break right now. Coming back with the mayor of Tupelo, Todd Jordan. We're at 7 days for the troops in Tupelo, Mississippi.
It's tax season.
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
What? This is so awesome.
On SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays. We're in Tupelo, Mississippi for 7 days for the troops. We're at the Antler just outside of Tupelo, Mississippi. And we're pleased to welcome now the mayor of the great all-American city of Tupelo, Mayor Todd Jordan. Mayor, always good to see you, sir. Thanks for coming on.
Always glad to be here, Gerard.
So give us an update. You guys have been grappling with some issues with the natural gas system around Tupelo, right?
Yeah, we almost had a perfect storm this weekend. We had the gas situation, then the flooding here on Saturday. So, you know, we really been struggling here, but I tell you what, response has been wonderful. They now have over 700 employees here to help. They've got gas restored to over 11,000 homes. So, you know, they're working at 10:30 at night, And if you need them to come after that, they will.
Yeah, well, that's so you're pleased. Now, is your office in touch with the Atmos folks, or are they proactively contacting you, giving you status reports?
That's right. They give several updates a day. Well, we've had a meeting, a briefing every day since this happened with Atmos and the community.
Okay.
Community leaders, supervisors, and mayors. Everyone's affected. All our department heads, anybody that is in municipal or county government is welcome to come. And just an update on kind of where they are, shows a map, and obviously in the beginning, they didn't really know. I mean, you have a main line, then you have all these small lines, and I think they ran into some issues, obviously, digging up some of these lines and, repairing them, which we kind of knew was going to happen, but, their response has been wonderful.
Okay. Well, good. We got Public Service Commissioner for the Northern District, Chris Brown, joining the program later. Has their office been supportive as well?
They have. They've been at our briefings also. So, Commissioner Brown has been in touch with me and, whatever you need. And of course, this is not our event. This is Atmos's event.
Yeah.
But we're, we're providing security and things like that.
Yeah.
Anything we can do to assist to get, our partners with Atmos to get us on a little quicker.
I've always thought, just from my business background, Mayor, that stuff's going to happen. Stuff breaks. It doesn't matter what it is. Doesn't matter how perfectly designed it is. It's a product of human engineering, and it's subject to failure. The real litmus test of the quality of a company is not whether or not their stuff's going to break. It's what they do when it does.
That's right. And that night, last Wednesday, that night and Thursday, they had technicians here from Texas and all over their 8 states that they cover. It was just and it was refreshing for the community. And look, there's going to be some revenue loss with the restaurants. They have a claim that they can go on Atmos and insurance claim. And it's the frustration, I think, after 4 or 5 days not getting turned back on. And really, communication's been good, but, when they have that much area to cover with the main lines, with the lines off of that, it's tough to let everybody know we're going to be in your neighborhood at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
So they've been sending out texts to customers. We're going to be in the neighborhood. We're going to be in the area between these times. So sometimes that helps. Sometimes it doesn't because people have to work. So they have to, go back. But, when everybody that has come in contact with an Atmos employee said they've been wonderful to work with.
Okay. Stressful period for you, Mayor. I mean, you and your team in your office, but you know this. You signed up for this, and I would argue that perhaps just managing infrastructure from a municipal level, I mean, that's top of the list, is it not?
No doubt about it. We spent a lot of money trying to upgrade, but the floods that happened on Saturday, we're going to have multiple streets that are going to need to be repaired over the next several weeks. So we made a list. I was out in the rain Saturday. I like to ride around and look at, we only have so many public work and water and light people that could be out, and they're out working. I was riding around seeing what areas we could help.
Okay. So I just wanted to pass this on real quick, and then we can talk about it a little bit. We announced that the House and Senate have agreed to a tax reform package. It turns out that the House concurred with the entire Senate bill, the amended bill as is, and just a brief recap of that: eliminates the income tax over a period of time based on achievement of certain economic triggers at the state level, no increase in the general sales tax, a decrease in the sales tax on groceries from 7% to 5%. That would take effect this coming July. Creation of a new tier in the public employees retirement system, Tier 5, and then finally an increase in fuel taxes of 3 cents per year over 3 years to a terminal increase of 9 cents per gallon. Your thoughts about that at this point, Mayor?
Well, obviously, it's going to take a couple of years to see just how we're going to be affected here in Tupelo, with the difference in the fuel tax and the grocery tax. And then I think everybody probably will agree that eliminating the income tax would be the number one thing.
Okay.
And it's just, how do we make up that shortfall? And luckily I'm not in Jackson to make that decision.
It's a state matter.
That's right. But I think that's probably what everybody would agree, especially with the states around us and what they've done. But obviously people know if you take revenue away from one place, you have to replace it somewhere else, because we're not always going to be financially where we are. I mean, you're going to have your ups and downs. There's going to be a time to where it's not going to be that great, may be as good, but it may not get the probably the projection that we're hoping. So you have to be conservative on what you're looking at and make sure you have money in the bank.
Yeah, and we should also point out, as you are aware, that even though there will be a decrease in the sales tax on groceries, the municipalities will be made whole by the state.
Sure.
For the lost diversions there.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. And that's, we've kind of been fighting for a higher diversion anyway. I was hoping to get it a couple of years ago. That way we could be in a little better position. But, we can operate where we are. I mean, we have a little bit of surplus every year that we put in our rainy day fund. So, we're fortunate here in Tupelo. And it was not just me. It's the one before me that saw a need to have a rainy day fund. And we got one of the highest, or the highest bond rating in the state. Only 4 cities in Mississippi have it. So we're fortunate. We did have to borrow a little bit of money last year to replace a bridge. We had that on a 4-year payback, but it looks like we're going to pay it back in 3.
Oh, that's awesome. Plus, you keep your interest costs down with a high rating. So let's talk about this event, 7 days for the troops. This is really something, Mayor, in your town here.
It is. And, you don't get a high-level official like this come to Tupelo, Mississippi.
Incredible.
Hardly ever, but,
Talking about Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth.
That's right. And, congratulations to Scott Burns, 7 Days of Troops, for getting him here. And, we had Scott came and spoke to my wife's middle school leadership class a few months ago, and he already had Pete Hegseth coming, and then he got confirmed. He said, well, what I do now, I was like, I think you probably need to reach out to the senator that lives here and say, hey, we need a little help. So it all worked out. It's going to be a great event, and, security is going to be high, but we're looking forward to tonight.
That's awesome. And the place just looks great. This venue, the Antler, this has got to be quite the asset for the Tupelo area.
It sure is. We've got 2 or 3 like this, and, it's been here a while, but it is a great setup. A rustic look. It's got everything you think of on the property, to get married, to do whatever you want to do.
Yeah, all kinds of events. Just an event venue. It's really cool. And been watching the staff all morning, very meticulously setting up all these tables. It looks great, doesn't it?
Well,
the patriotic.
This is a really big deal for our community.
It is, and such a great cause. And Scott Burns and all the great work he and his team do, and all the donors that contribute to the efforts here. It's so important that we don't forget about our veterans, especially those who are disabled.
That's right, disabled and homeless.
Yeah,
we never know what's going through somebody's a livelihood. It could be us one day. So, I'm proud to say that Tupelo area, we don't have any homeless veterans right now.
Good.
Our efforts have been wonderful, and the disabled, and obviously Scott is right in there, a double amputee from the knee down. So he knows what a lot of these individuals are going through.
So, a little bit of time left. I wanted to ask you about this new Tier 5 in PERS. Do you see that as being an impediment to hiring new folks?
Only time will tell. Obviously, they've done tiers before.
Yeah.
Not knowing what was going to happen, it all worked out. So I'm hoping this will too.
Okay.
We're doing good on our hiring right now. We're 100% in our police department. We're only a couple down in our fire department.
Okay.
And across the board, we don't have very many openings, so we're fortunate.
Well, I believe it wasn't too long ago you and I talked, and you had some openings you were trying to fill, right?
We did, and of course, going to the police academy, we lose a lot the first day. They just realize that's not what
it's rigorous. Should be, though.
That's right. To get through, and I think we had 2 firemen that were going through the academy right now. One of them dropped out, so we have, I think, only 2 open. We're 100% police. Not everybody is like that.
I got you. Mayor Todd Jordan, the mayor of the great city of Tupelo, has been our guest. Thanks for coming on, Mayor.
Good to see you, sir.
Pleasure. Folks, we're stepping aside for a break. When we return, it's Dean Goebel, Director of Philanthropy for Black Rifle Coffee Company. Stay with us. We're at 7 Days for the Troops in Tupelo, Mississippi.
You're fine. So kind. Got to tell this world that you're mine. Quit on my thumb. Real nervous about it, sure is fun. Come on, baby. Drive me crazy. This is great balls of fire.
Attention, adoring fans!
It's time for Middays with Gerard Gibert on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays. We're in Tupelo, Mississippi at the Antler, an event venue. We're here for 7 days for the troops. And we also want to thank our sponsors again, MedPlus, John Logan, Sprout Insurance, Tim Tubb, and Mitchell Distributing. That's John Hamm. It's our pleasure to welcome now Dean Goebel, Director of Philanthropy for Black Rifle Coffee Company. Dean, thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So how did you get involved with this organization, 7 Days for the Troops?
Yeah, so I run my own nonprofit, that I run, and then with the board and everything. But, yeah, I got a grant that was given to me as the organization. And they flew me out there to get the check and everything. And, I got a chance to meet all the executives for Black Rifle Coffee Company, and they called me a week later, and they're like, hey, can you do that stuff for us? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. I love it because I love the brand, what they stand for. So it just kind of made a lot of sense. So, and quite frankly, I was looking for something to do with my life. So I was like, hey, this is perfect.
That's awesome. So does Black Rifle Coffee Company, do they kind of have a focus on veterans as a philanthropy in general?
Oh, without a doubt. If anything, that is what the brand is.
Okay.
So, serving those who serve is the motto that we got for it.
Yeah.
But every single executive meeting, every meeting that we have is, hey, what are we doing for the military or veterans, first responders? And that is incorporated into everything we do. So whether it's sales, marketing, you name it, there is always something we're doing to give back.
Yeah. And, one thing I think, Dean, we should keep in mind is that the majority of our veterans these days, as our precious World War II veterans are dwindling in numbers, and our Vietnam, Korean vets are up there in age as well, they volunteered. They weren't conscripted into service. They weren't drafted. They volunteered to go serve their country. And so when they fall upon some sort of difficult circumstances, it's completely appropriate and proper that we help them out.
100%. And so from the philanthropy standpoint in Black Rifle, I tell everybody I got the best job at Black Rifle because what I get to do is work with amazing nonprofits like Purple Heart Homes and simply help them do what they're doing better. Because it helps us as an organization, helps them as an organization, but most importantly, helps the community. Because these is where the expertise lie. So they know the issues that are affecting veterans. They know the issues. They know the resources they need. Most of the time, they just either don't have the reach or the financial capability to assist. And that's where Black Rifle can come in and be like, hey, how can we complement your efforts?
Yeah. And our government, of course, has a suite, a portfolio of services that are available to the veterans, but you can't absolutely address and cover every single thing, and I'm not sure we want them to. It makes more sense, does it not, for the private sector to step up and fill that void?
100%. I'm a big Reagan guy, so I like limited government.
Sure.
And I love the idea of empowering private nonprofits to be like, hey, this is what makes sense because they live here. They know it. There's no way some person all the way out in D.C. is going to be like, hey, this is what's best for the people here in Mississippi.
Yeah.
Well, no, I guarantee you Purple Heart Homes here probably understands their community extremely well. We just need to help them do it better.
Yeah.
Get them that bigger microphone, et cetera.
This organization, 7 Days for the Troops, is a bit unique in that it was founded by a veteran, a disabled veteran.
Yeah, Scott.
Yeah.
Yeah, right over there. Yeah, he was nice enough to buy me a beer last night when I flew in. Yeah, great people. I just met him for the first time, and then we're already talking about, hey, man, how can we complement each other? How can I help you out, help you continue to do what you're doing better?
Yeah. It truly is awesome. What about this venue and the setup here with all the patriotic red, white, and blue? I mean, this just makes you proud to be an American and appreciate our veterans.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. And the first thing I notice is, the POW, chair, and I love seeing that symbolic and that representation, the red, white, and blue. And then, if I'm being frank, is the countryside. I'm a country boy, so unfortunately I'm forced to kind of live in a city these days. And so as soon as I get out and get to see some green, I'm like back in my happy place, you know. So it's so nice to kind of just get out of the city, get to be around some folk that know and understand and are passionate about what they're doing and take all this very seriously and respectful on how they do it. I mean, you can just look at our background. That tells you everything awesome. You need to know about this organization.
Yeah. Are you starting to see, perhaps, Dean, an uptick, an increase in the interest by the private sector, such as Black Rifle Coffee Company, to get involved and to try to help out our veterans in this respect?
I do, yeah, especially because, I mean, you know, global war on terrorism is quote-unquote over, you know, I mean, and so my generation, thus who have served there for a very long time, you know, we're done. You know, now granted, there's other very strategic objectives we're trying to achieve as the government, but there's a lot of guys and girls coming home, and you know, it's kind of like, I use the comparison lightly, but it's kind of like our own little Vietnam. You know, so, you know, people are coming back. There's a lot of issues that need to be tackled. And luckily, what I've seen is an uptick from all organizations, really great organizations, who are like, hey, how can we help those people? Okay. And I've seen it every day, the amount of people who want to collaborate, get involved, even putting like competitive nature to the side because they all understand this is a great common goal to get behind. Yeah. And it's just been so enlightening to see from the private sector.
Yeah. Have you or any of the executives in your company, have you had any direct contact with some of the veterans that have been assisted by your efforts?
Every day.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, some of the, what I like to hear is the testimonies. Yeah. So, you know, like, it's one thing to just be like, you know, here's your check, you know, best of luck. But when you get to hear back from some of the organizations that, like, hey, we got this guy a free, you know, mortgage-free home, you know, because he was a homeless veteran and needed this assistance. Mm-hmm. Those are the type of stories that I like to get back and then highlight. You know, we're very respectful on names and stuff. Some people don't want to be highlighted, but we really like to see the testimonies and the direct impact we're making.
Does that serve as inspiration, as a motivator to do even more?
Oh, 100%. This is the thing that keeps, every time I'm just like, hey, I am tired, you know, and then, and then I'm fortunate enough that somebody will come up and be like, hey, you changed my life. And I'm like, well, okay, I guess I'll keep going, you know. So that is literally what just drags me back into this time and time again, is when you get to see the impact you're making. And it's, you know, it's not superficial. It's very tangible, and you can just see their eyes and the passion behind it. And and selfishly, I see that as like a huge reward for my own passion and purpose in life.
Yeah. You know, we've had, don't want to get political on you, but we've had obviously a change in administrations. You mentioned earlier that you were a Reagan guy, and man, no one loved the U.S. military more than he did. As I recall, one of the first actions upon being elected in his first term was to host a dinner at the White House for members of the military and veterans that they hadn't been in there in a while, that they just seemed to have been forgotten by the Carter administration. But we've got President Trump, who is a big fan and friend of the veterans, and of course nominates and was confirmed, as you talked about, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, a veteran himself, who, I mean, hit the ground running to do good things on behalf of our Department of Defense and our veterans. Do you feel like the attitude in the country overall is sort of changing more positively with the change in administration towards the veterans?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I think the voting spoke for itself. I think that gave you the statistics and what the people were thinking. And I think that spoke very loudly across where we needed to be as an organization, or as a country. Mm-hmm. And so with that too, I mean, I've seen changes that I agree with, you know, and other people may not agree with, and that's fine. But that's the beauty of our democracy. But just being able to see people in the military like, hey, I'm going to re-enlist. I'm going to keep going now. I can see that change. It's no secret that the recruiting numbers were down.
Right.
And now, they're starting to come back up. Yeah. So there's those little statistics you see that are coming across the board that are really starting to uptick, and you can kind of see that movement and that change that's positive for the U.S. military, in my humble opinion.
I mean, there's no shame in being patriotic and showing your support and respect for the people who wear the country's uniform.
100%. Could not agree more.
And it seems like we abandon that to some extent, and in fact, in many circles, there's a certain degree of contempt for those who make that sacrifice to wear our uniform, and in fact, look to just change the situation where perhaps we don't even have a military. I don't really know. I mean, there's some extreme views.
Yeah, you're going to always have the extreme views, and I have great friends with various viewpoints on it, but we always collectively, except for you get the people who are way out there, but for the most part, we're just like, hey, we need to do more. And I always like to throw in the first responders, our police fighters, our policemen and women, the firefighters out there. Because I don't think they get enough love. A lot of focus is usually on veterans in the military, which is rightfully deserved. And being a veteran myself, I feel like I can say, some of the police officers I spoke to out in Chicago and bigger cities, they've seen a lot and have done a lot. Yeah. And so taking care of them, because that is a very tough job that can have a lot of politics behind it.
Nobody else is going to come to your aid, I guarantee you that, the way they do. And the same with the U.S. military defending the country. Dean Goebel, Director of Philanthropy for Black Rifle Coffee Company. Thanks for coming on, Dean, and thanks for all that you guys do for our veterans. Appreciate it.
Of course, sir. Anytime.
Yeah, man. Appreciate it. Good job. Folks, we're stepping aside for a break right now. Coming back with John Galena, co-founder, Purple Heart Homes.
Need heavy haul.
Come on. Middays with Gerard Gibert.
All right, we are back
on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It is Middays, and we are live at the Antler in Tupelo, Mississippi. We're here for 7 days for the troops. We're pleased to welcome now the COO of Purple Heart Homes, Carrie Lowing. Carrie, thanks for coming on.
Hi, thanks for having me.
All right, so tell us exactly what you guys do at Purple Heart Homes.
Well, we're a veterans nonprofit. We assist with housing, so we have a couple of different programs. We either renovate and remodel homes that veterans already own that will work for their particular needs and disabilities, or we have a home opportunity program where we can sometimes help with homes that have been donated to us, getting them into those homes for about 50% of the home's value. And then we now build tiny homes.
Tiny homes. What is that exactly?
They're 320 square foot homes that are perfect for a single veteran or a veteran couple. And they're stick-built homes. We're licensed to build them just like your regular stick-built homes. And then we put them on a traditional foundation, and the veteran gets a home that will last them the rest of their life.
I got you. So do you guys work directly with 7 Days for the Troops, that organization as well?
Well, we do. We partner with them quite often. And at this particular event, we've got a big secret announcement that we're going to make about 7 Days for the Troops. So.
Secret announcement. Okay.
Right. We're really excited about it.
Yeah. How do you identify veterans, troops that are in need of your services?
They apply either through the mail or on our website. Unfortunately, we currently have a backlog of about 1,400 veterans waiting for assistance, all in grave need of something. But we just don't have the funding to get to all of them right away. But we get to about 200, 250 a year.
Wow, 200, 250 a year. Busy.
Very busy. Very, very busy.
And where do you get funds from? How do you raise money?
From individual donors, from corporations. larger corporations will grant us certain grants each year that we can cover, but really the best thing is individual donors. We have a monthly giving program that we can then budget how much is going to come in each month. We know how many projects we can do, and so we really encourage people, if they want to help out, that monthly giving program is the way to go.
So if someone wants to donate, how can they do that, Carrie?
Through our website is the easiest way, and you can see all of our information there. You can see our financial documents. We're very transparent. So our website's the best way, and that's phhusa.org.
phausa.org.
PHH.
PHH. Gotcha. Purple Heart Homes.
Right.
Say again. What's the org?
.org.
Okay. PHHUSA. .org. Want to make sure I got it right. Okay, thank you. So we repeated it a few times to make sure folks have got the address correct if they'd like to donate. So do you provide these services, Carrie, just in this region or across the country, or where all do you serve?
We are nationwide. As a matter of fact, we're nationwide, and we have a chapter in Puerto Rico.
Wow.
So, we're helping veterans wherever they need us.
And tell me again the number that you did last year of these homes.
We did about 230 last year. Overall, we're about to celebrate our 1500th project.
What do you think about the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, joining the event tonight?
We're super excited. I hope I get the opportunity to meet him.
That's really cool, isn't it? That he would make his way to Mississippi, to Tupelo. But I think it just goes to show you just how serious he is about his respect for our veterans, our troops in general. And it's very refreshing to see that. Do you attend events similar to this one across the country as well to promote what you guys do and work with other organizations?
We do. It's not always me, but we are always at other events throughout the country.
Yeah.
I know several of them, when they leave here, they're going to be flying to Arizona for something else.
Oh, wow. And you indicated that your funding primarily, if not exclusively, comes from private donations, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. And can folks be confident that the majority, if not all of their donation, makes it to its intended purpose?
Absolutely. Like I said earlier, our website contains all of our financial documents, and people can certainly go look and see where their money's going.
Awesome. All right. Well, that is a wrap for this hour. Carrie Lowing, the COO of Purple Heart Homes, has been our guest. We're at 7 days for the troops. Thanks for coming on, Carrie.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks for what you guys do. We're stepping aside for a break. It's time for Fox News and SuperTalk News. When we come back in the final hour of Middays, we've got Chris Brown, the Northern District Public Service Commissioner, John Logan, CEO, Director, MedPlus Clinics, and once again, Scott Burns, co-founder, 7 Days for the Troops.
We'll be there, followed by more. In action, Lord, we carry on. Oh, nothing will stop the Air Force. Oh, nothing will stop our U.S. Air
Get ready to go beyond the headlines and join a meaningful conversation with people from around the state. You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays. We're in Tupelo, Mississippi for 7 days for the troops at the Antler in Tupelo, Mississippi. Thanks so much for joining us on this
Friday, y'all.
It's Friday Eve. Oh, my gosh. We're almost there, though, Rhino. That's pretty cool. So, yeah. Also today on In a Mississippi Minute with Steve Azar, you'll hear an interview with Mark Pattison, who played in the NFL and after his playing years were over became a mountain climber who has now climbed the 7 highest mountains in the world, including Mount Everest. In a Mississippi Minute with Steve Azar is presented by Superior Catfish. Remember, there's catfish, then there is Superior Catfish. It's U.S. farm-raised catfish with homegrown flavor. Ask for it by name at your favorite store or restaurant. Go to SuperiorCatfish.com. So, on the C Spire text line, Dan in Hattiesburg says, I'm glad they went with 3 cents per gallon versus 5 cents on the dollar. That would have been very confusing. So, Dan, let's recap. You're right. The original proposal from the House was to institute a 5% sales tax on top of the 18.4 cents per gallon excise tax. And then they amended that in their latest draft, the latest efforts, where they took the Senate bill that got transmitted via the, of course, procession, as Rhino so aptly describes. And they amended that and said, okay, we're striking the Senate bill, we're sticking our language in it, and they changed it up a little bit to implement a 5 cents per year over 3 years, total 15 cents per gallon additional excise tax. So they went from 5% sales tax to 15 cents excise tax. However, the Senate stuck to its original draft with a 3 cents per gallon additional excise tax, total of 9 cents per gallon increase, essentially a 50% increase in the current state excise tax would put it up at 27 cents and change. That looks like has been concurred with by the Mississippi House. So that's where we are. So the bottom line to those of you keeping score at home is you've got a 9 cents per gallon gas tax going into effect additionally. And you've got a reduction of the income tax down to 3% over, I believe it's over 4 years was the amendment, Rhino, on that, in quarter points per year over 4 from the 4% rate effective in 2026 all the way through 2030 down to 3%. So all taxable income north of $10,000 taxable at 3%. And then from that point forward, triggers would be computed each year during the session to determine if additional cutting could be done to the income tax. This is what looks like is going to become law. And the way that computation works, don't want to get too much into the weeds, but the bottom line is we could either see a 0.2% decrease, a 0.25, or a 0.30 decrease, depending on how well the state is performing economically. And what we mean by that is revenues versus expenses. Have to hit at least 85% in terms of the surplus. It has to equal at least 85% of what the excess of revenues or expenses would be, over expenses would be in the next fiscal year for that to be applied. So that looks like that's going to the governor's desk for approval and enactment into law. So you could say officially that the state is putting us on a path, the legislature, to eliminate the income tax, though it will require the achievement of certain financial criteria to phase it out completely. And that's where we are. I'm a little surprised, honestly, Rhino, that the House concurred and that it happened in such a short period of time. I was concerned that should it go to conference, that may be the House signaling on their side, at least, that they were going to torpedo the deal, and that you could incur the risk of a point of order, given that the Tier 5 creation, a new tier in the PERS program, was inserted in this tax legislation. You could I guess, legitimately raise a point of order and say, hey, that really doesn't belong in this bill. This is about taxes. But since they concurred, no point of order, this thing is headed to the governor for signature. Why would Tate Reeves sign that crap, says Larry and Mize? Because it achieves his goal, although it's fair to say that it's a goal that is achieved with some attainment of requirements, those being the economic triggers as prescribed in the Senate version of the legislation. I think he'll sign it. I mean, that's just my opinion at this point. Because if he doesn't, maybe he doesn't, and it just becomes law. That's certainly one option. What is it, Rhino? 10 days, I believe. If a bill
7.
once 7, okay. It's a very short period of time. Once the bill is passed both chambers, goes to the governor. If the governor does not sign it, it automatically becomes law in accordance with our laws. You said 7 days. I think you're right. I said 10. I don't know where I got that from, but nonetheless, 7 days. And Rhino, is it 7 days that the legislature? There's some caveat to that, isn't it? Is it 7 consecutive days, regardless of where those days fall, or is there something specific?
We were both wrong.
Okay, what? Tell me.
In the state of Mississippi, if any bill shall not be returned by the governor within 5 days after it has been presented to him, it shall become law in like manner as if he had signed it, with Sundays excepted.
Okay, I got you. So I knew there was some exception to that. So bottom line is Monday through Saturday qualifies as one of the 5, right?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. That may be his action. He may say, no, this stops short. But then you got to believe that he's been such an outspoken proponent of elimination of the income tax that he jumps on this and says, well, this isn't perfect, but I don't like the triggers, but I feel confident that our economy is going to sustain growth of state finances such that we'll achieve those triggers and the income tax will ultimately be phased out. Larry says he could veto it. Well, the problem with that, Larry, is that I think it could be overridden in the House and the Senate. 2/3 of those chambers could override. So that is slightly more than the 3/5 required in each chamber to pass this legislation. My guess is, Larry, what he'll do is he'll do a little vote counting. He and his team will counting to see, okay, if I veto this thing, what are the chances that I could, if it goes back, that they would not override the veto. Would you think that's the case, Rhino, that's probably the political calculation he would make there?
Yeah, I don't even know that he would count votes because it is income tax reform with the goal of elimination, which is what he's wanted. Vetoing that would be politically unpalatable.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. Can he line item veto the trigger? I don't think so, says Thomas in Greenwood. You and I reviewed that before. I think we determined that is not available on this kind of legislation. Thomas says he may just let it become law without his signature. That's what we're just talking about, Thomas. You may have not been tuned in, but yeah, it could sit for 5 days, but he wouldn't be able to, I guess, take any credit for it at that point, that this is essentially, and that's a question we had, does it really do away with the income tax eventually, or does it just reduce it? No, it does do away with it, provided that those financial parameters are achieved on an annual basis in up to 0.3% increments. So 0.2, 0.25, 0.3, depending on how well the state is doing financially. Did you get a chance to hear Senator Blunt's interview this morning? He sounded like any other Democrat, so miserable. Why he chairs that committee and co-chairs the Education Committee is so stupid. Thanks, Lieutenant Governor, says Tim and McGee. I didn't hear it, but Rhino and I have talked to him on the program in the past, not so long ago, and he made it very clear that not only does he oppose any reduction or elimination of the income tax, that he believes we should spend every penny that the state that the legislature can appropriate in accordance with statute, which would be 98% of our revenue. So, yeah, he's all about more government. He's a Democrat. You got to keep that in mind there, Tim. And I know you know that. I can't explain why the lieutenant governor appoints him to those positions. He blocked mobile sports gaming, which I think was a huge mistake. Chris Brown, Northern District Public Service Commissioner, is next.
Think for a minute. Covering the stories that matter most to Mississippians. Gerard Gibert. Middays with Gerard. SuperTalk, Mississippi.
David Bowie bumping us into this segment with Heroes, and how appropriate is that, given that we are here for 7 days for the troops. American heroes for sure. Here in Tupelo, Mississippi at the Antler, that's where we are. 7 days for the troops.org. That's where you can log on and make a donation to this extremely worthy cause. It's our pleasure to welcome now Chris Brown. He's the Public Service Commissioner for the Northern District of the great state of Mississippi. Chris, good to see you, man. Commissioner, thanks for coming on.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me. It's a great event. We look forward to supporting the troops, and the job that Scott Burns and his team does here is absolutely amazing. So it's good. It's an honor to be part of it.
It's really incredible to think about this being originated and founded right here in Tupelo, Mississippi, in your district. No?
Yeah, it's really cool. So our troops, we owe them a debt that we can't repay. So every little bit we can do, we're glad to do it. So
now, what do you think about? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Chris.
No, so again, I just want to give 7 days for the troops a good shout out and support them. 7 days for the troops.org.
No doubt about it. And something I think both you and I can agree on, totally reliant on private funding.
Yes.
Nothing from the government. So
100%.
Yeah. And I think, of course, private funding, privately funded organizations are way more efficient in their use of those funds than government is.
I think we're finding that out every day with USAID and the work that DOGE is doing, that government is not the solution. A lot of time that's the problem.
No doubt about it. So what about Pete Hegseth, Secretary of Defense?
How cool is that?
That is so cool.
That he's coming here to Tupelo, and I know he's a good veteran, and he's a great American. So it's good that him and Scott teamed up to promote this event and to hopefully we'll raise a bunch of money tonight.
I think he will be blown away, honestly, with the hospitality he receives and the interest and the passion, the vigor that he'll find here in the great state of Mississippi, where we do honor and respect our veterans and our members of our military.
We do, and this is a great venue. The Antler is a beautiful event, a place to have an event like this, but if it was 3 or 4 times this size, I think it would be packed.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's awesome. All right, give us a report from the Public Service Commission these days.
Well, what we're dealing with here in the north is the incident that happened with the Atmos high pressure line. High pressure line exploded.
Very unusual situation, wasn't it?
Yeah, it didn't explode. It just released the pressure, and obviously the whole system went down. 17,000. Connections were out, and Atmos. We were on the ground. Our Public Service Commission Pipeline Safety Division was on the ground as quick as we could get up here. We investigated the situation, then turned it back over to Atmos. And they have been working diligently with over 700 employees, and so now they're up to about 12,000 of the 17,000 restored. So hopefully we'll have all that behind us for the next couple of days.
Yeah, absolutely, no doubt about it. And the mayor, Todd Jordan, reports that he's pleased with the response from Atmos and the status reports they've been given and all the assets that they have applied to this issue.
They're very responsive. I was actually at the dentist yesterday, and he was bragging on Atmos and the work that everybody coming together, the city, our staff, the Atmos people. It's been very. It's unfortunate that it happened, but we are moving as quick as possible as a group to make sure that people have their service restored.
Well, and I think it bears repeating. I mentioned to the mayor that look, these are human creations, and they're subject to failure. I mean, no matter how well they're engineered, just there's always this possibility. And the real litmus test for a company is not whether or not there's going to be a problem. It's what they do when there is a problem, how they respond.
Which brings me to the next issue we have, Holly Springs Utility District. Some of that is human error or self-inflicted, I guess.
Yep.
So all three of commissioners are going to be in Holly Springs this Friday night.
Okay.
Just to show unity, and that we are unified to fix that issue for those people in that district. Because I don't know how much you kind of followed it, but
we reported it too.
It's a bad situation up there.
That's what we hear. Is it fair to say, Commissioner, that when you have folks like Atmos that are responding appropriately and expeditiously, that it makes your job a little easier, I guess?
It does. When people work with you and with a common goal, and I think that's where this commission has been strong, is the fact that myself, Commissioner Carr, and Commissioner Stamps, we have a common goal. It's one Mississippi. We want to do, if I can help Commissioner Carr, Commissioner Stamps in their district, I'm 100% for them.
Okay.
And in years past, it seems like it's been more of a competition between personalities. But I'm pleased to say that we are all unified in a one Mississippi.
Good to hear.
If I can help the South, we will. If they can help me, they will. If I can help the Central, same thing.
I sense that as well. I just want you to know that as a citizen and also in this role as well, having interviewed all you guys and interacted with them, I do sense that, and that's appreciated to let you know.
An interesting part is, we can disagree. We've disagreed from the bench, and but at the end of the day, Commissioner Stamps and I had a little bit of disagreement last month, and but at the end of the meeting, we both said there's nobody else I'd rather serve with than you.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so we can disagree but not be disagreeable or hold those grudges, if you will.
Well, you can get a lot more done when you're just can engage in respectful discourse like that.
We lack it in our country. We were just talking to Scott about that and how we see in our national discourse that right now they're burning Teslas, and why? Why is arson or violence the kind of knee-jerk reaction to go to? If you don't like what they're doing, don't buy the product.
Sure.
And instead of being vandalism and destructive, that's a crime.
Totally agree.
And I hope that Pam Bondi and that group will go after them for what they are. You can't destroy somebody else's property without some kind of recourse.
I think you and I would agree. We are in full support of peaceful protesting under the First Amendment. When you start destroying the property of others, or even worse, they do physical harm to their bodies, their person, that's beyond the First Amendment.
Yes, and I think that's why the left is kind of out of vogue right now.
Totally agree.
Because you go to violence or to doxing or all these other things to try to hurt somebody personally, and it's not about policy then. It's about personal attacks, and I don't think that's not helpful in politics.
Yeah,
let's discuss policy and go head to head on our ideas, not on what you look like.
Yeah, totally agree. So, Commissioner, as you are well aware, something that is paramount in most of the minds across this country is the insatiable demand and future demand for energy is driven by this explosion, this artificial intelligence revolution. Those guys need those tools, I should say. They need data centers, and data centers consume lots of power. Though they continue to improve in efficiency, but they still need power we don't have. What's the plan there?
We're our power exporter right now, so we are an energy exporter.
Okay.
So Mississippi, we actually send power to Georgia, to Arkansas, and Louisiana at this point, generated in Mississippi. I know we're having more. TVA announced they're building a couple new combined cycle natural gas plants in the north. Entergy is on the move, building a couple new natural gas facilities.
Right.
The key there is to make sure that we have reliable, affordable energy. So that's kind of our job, to try to encourage them. We don't dictate it, but we want to make sure that everything we look at, this generation mix, is very important for the future. If we get it wrong, our quality of life goes down, and we lose our economic, our industrial base, or companies won't locate here. So we can look at Germany. Germany, first quarter of last year, said that they were bragging that 50% of their energy were renewables. Well, they shuttered their nuclear program. They were buying natural gas from Russia, but they had the second highest energy cost in the world and they're losing their industrial base. Quality of life and standard of living is going down for the average German because of bad policy by the politicians there. So we want to make sure that we don't make that mistake, which the last administration was going down that path.
No doubt about it.
And so we have a reprieve with this administration, and they're going to be pro-America. But we're conservationists. I don't want to destroy the environment. I want to make sure that we're good stewards of what God gave us. But at the end of the day, you don't want to promote human suffering by doing that.
Yeah.
And so there's a balance.
We're in a race, I think it's fair to say, with our foes, such as China, for artificial intelligence and superiority and quantum computing. These are technologies that require energy.
Yes.
There is no industry without, and there's no innovation without energy. So it's critical that we're able to meet that demand.
Sure. And then it was reported to me that China is building the equivalent to one coal plant a month.
Right.
To supply their energy needs.
Right.
And so we're one of the cleanest nations in the world. We're emitting less carbon today than we did 20 years ago, but we're exporting it to other parts of the world.
Yeah.
And so we're going to create more power, and we're going to do it clean, and we're going to do it the right way.
That's awesome. Appreciate your service as the Northern Public Service Commissioner, Chris Brown. Thanks for coming on, Chris.
And good job reporting on the tax.
On the taxes.
That's awesome.
We'll talk about that.
Congratulations.
While we're on the air.
Let's do it. Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you coming on, Commissioner.
7daysforthetroops.org.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're coming right back, folks. The Element Wealth Studio is at the Antler in Tupelo, Mississippi for 7 days for the troops.
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
It is on
SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. Middays is live at the Antler in Tupelo, Mississippi. We're here for 7 days for the troops. We appreciate you joining us today. Tallahatchie Gourmet in New Albany and Oxford. Jeff Olson providing lunch for today's event. I see it set up over there. Rhino, I'm going to have to partake. I'll be on Newsmax later on this afternoon, folks. If you're interested, I just got notification that my hit time is 3:15 p.m. This afternoon. 3:45 today. And apparently I'm going to, I've been asked to talk about, I bet you saw this, Rhino, the applause which emitted on the Daily Show from the studio audience when they were discussing the domestic terror across this country against Tesla and destruction of Tesla cars. Have you seen some of this video, Rhino, with these dead-gum cars set ablaze in showrooms? What the heck's going on here?
Well, it just shows the double standards of the loopy left. Democrats don't really give a rat's rear end about the environment. If they did, they wouldn't be setting lithium batteries on fire.
Stupid, man. I thought they were all about EVs. I thought they worshipped EVs, but they're setting them ablaze, rendering them inoperational.
They worship whatever the mealy-mouthed talking heads on mainstream media tell them to worship. They don't have a single original thought in their empty skulls.
I might just have to repeat that this afternoon on the show. And then, of course, the NASA astronauts making it home. We'll talk about that. But just this, even the liberal host, by the way, on the Daily Show said, obviously you guys like domestic terror. I was shocked, but pleased to see it, calling it out for what it is and calling out their reaction for what it is. It's absolutely incredible. Man, oh man. Thomas in Greenwood says, why does he need to take credit talking about the governor? He's a lame duck. Well, look, the governor has prioritized the elimination of the income tax for quite some time. He has been an incredibly effective promoter and champion for elimination of the income tax. And I applaud him in that respect. And I believe he was a big part of the influence here that got this thing to where it is today. I really think he'll sign it. I do. I think he may say, well, this falls slightly short of my goal, but I think he'll sign it. And I probably misspoke. It's not about credit. I just think that attribution is, of course, important to anyone who serves in public office like that. Not that he needs that, as Thomas points out. He is a lame duck as our governor, but he could have some future aspirations. It may not even be elected public office, but just as a public service in public service in general. I can see him perhaps being called up to serve eventually in a Republican president's cabinet or in some other high-level administrative role. And I think having this on his resume is a pretty dang big deal, because we conservatives, and you certainly would have to describe the governor as a conservative. We conservatives believe in lower taxes, and I think he's trying to put us on the map with the other states that have fully eliminated their income tax. Casey says, how do we eliminate the tax on personal property? It is ridiculous for a business to have to pay tax on desks and computers they own. Yeah, Casey, the challenge there is that those funds are used to pay the costs of schools and municipalities and counties and county functions, which for the most part involve infrastructure at the municipal level, and to some extent law enforcement, of course, and other public services. At the municipal level, it's all that infrastructure, public works, law enforcement, etc. But that's where, of course, municipalities also get a diversion, as you heard Mayor Todd Jordan of Tupelo talk about earlier. Some municipalities derive most of their income from the sales tax diversion. It's once that 7% you pay at the cash register, 18.5% of the 7% is returned to municipalities. They also get a piece of an allocation of property taxes, as you point out. There's a bit of a movement, however, I'll say, Casey, in this country to really start taking a hard look at property taxes. This has become in focus, and it's highly objectionable. I think the state of Florida is looking at doing something serious there, the state of Texas as well, but they have the same issue. They rely on those funds for operations and provision of services at the municipal and the county level, so it would leave a bit of a hole there. So there's really no overlap with that and state government level funding. That comes from sales taxes and income taxes. Let's see, Robert Brandon, what is the tax reform bill to reform PERS? Asked that question. And I thought that somebody asked a question related to that. So just real quickly here, it creates an entirely new tier. Presently, there are 4 tiers in the public employees retirement system, the most recent and the current tier being Tier 4. And it is a full defined benefit program. It changed up Tier 3 a little bit in terms of the number of years required for vesting and then the amount of years included in calculating the average pay, which figures into the calculation to determine benefits. This Tier 5 is a hybrid plan. It's combination defined benefit plan. That's what PERS is. It's essentially what that means is no matter how much you pay into the system, you get benefits out as long as you're topside, as long as you're alive. Same with Social Security. Really has nothing to do with how much you paid in. It has to do with how long you live. As long as you live, you're getting benefits out. The amount of your pay does figure into the calculation of the benefits, but those benefits continue until such time as you cease to live. It's a hybrid of that, plus the other component is a traditional defined contribution plan, just like your perhaps employer-based 401k plan. You put in some money. Typically, your employer provides some sort of match, and then you continue to increase the value of that account. You direct, for the most part, the investments in that account because it's your private account. It's attached to you, unlike your PERS account. It's not really attached to you, just like your Social Security account. It's attached to you from the perspective of your average pay, but it's not attached to you from the perspective in that, hey, whatever I've paid in plus investment returns, that's the maximum I have to withdraw out. That's what a defined contribution plan does. So what we'd be offering all new employees effective March 1, all new public sector employees in Mississippi effective March 1 of 2026, they would enter the new Tier 5 part PERS, part their own defined contribution plan. However, interestingly enough, the legislation does not require public sector employers to contribute to the employee's defined contribution plan. So an example would be you probably, if you're employed and your employer offers a 401k plan, typically your employer is going to match up to a certain amount of what you put in. That goes into your personal account. And then, of course, that's invested in whatever that balance is when you start withdrawing, when you retire. That's all you got. Once you withdraw it, all that's it. So the idea here is that this would be far less expensive than the current PERS Tier 4 plan. That's the purpose of this, is to take pressure off the PERS program. However, it does mean that the benefits aren't nearly as generous under this program as the current PERS Tier 4 program. Also, there's no cost of living adjustment involved in this. Keep this in mind, though. Employers, that means the taxpayers, still contribute the same amount for these new employees. That's going to 19.9% of their pay, except their benefits are greatly reduced. So by reducing benefits and keeping the contribution on the employer side the same, you're essentially taking pressure off of the program. It's not enough to completely solve its unfunded liability program, but it stops the bleeding, and I think that's the main point of it. Hopefully that explanation gives you an idea of what this new program would look like. Man, the PERS folks are getting feisty. It will be full tilt later today. Get the popcorn ready. I don't know why, Thomas, because it doesn't apply to anybody that's currently in PERS. I want to make that perfectly clear. Everybody that's currently either an active employed member of PERS or anybody that is currently receiving benefits, no change whatsoever. And no, Thomas, we're never going to renegotiate the cost of living adjustment to the satisfaction of the legislature or the PERS folks. And it would also means that we would be facing a massive legal battle, and I don't think that would be in the best interest of the people of the great state of Mississippi. In reference to burning the Teslas, they are hurting the little people, the customer, the dealer, not Musk. Totally agree. Dustin from Walnut text in. Totally agree. We're coming right back with John Logan and Scott Burns. Middays is at 7 days for the troops in Tupelo.
At Fillmore, Middays with Gerard.
Good for America. Good for fans of justice and truth. Good for us.
SuperTalk Mississippi.
This is what we stand for.
We are the Guard. Soldiers and airmen are prepared. We are the National Guard. We serve on land and in the air. We go.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from Tupelo, Mississippi. We're at 7 days for the troops. We're pleased to welcome now Scott Burns, co-founder, 7 days for the troops. Scott, you guys look like you're all ready, man.
Hey, we're getting there. We got a few final touches to do, but we're gonna be ready when the doors open at 4:45.
Once again, remind the folks how much we're trying to raise tonight.
Our goal is to raise $100,000 to help our men and women in uniform.
You rely totally on private donations, and folks who contribute can rest assured that all the money goes to its intended purpose.
That is correct.
Yeah. Well, I just made a little donation for you here.
Hey, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
I like
absolutely.
it. Thank you.
I'm all about it, man.
I'll say this, too. If you're a business out there and you're looking for a local Mississippi-based veteran nonprofit, then reach out to me personally, 662-401-3349. There's a lot of great national nonprofits out there, and I don't ever want to take money out of their pockets.
Sure.
But I think we've got a lot of businesses and corporations in Mississippi that aren't aware that we have this nonprofit in Tupelo, and we're only limited by the amount of money that we're receiving.
Okay. Cool.
And so if you're a business out there and you say, hey, I want to be involved in what you're doing and I want to help, please give me a call, 662-401-3349. That's my private cell phone number. Send me a text. We can set up a meet, and I'll come talk to you anywhere we go.
Gotcha.
But I want to digress, or not digress. I want to change.
Sure.
I love what I do. I love raising money to help veterans. Mm-hmm. But I know that you have a vast audience when it comes to speaking on politics. Mm-hmm. And I'm passionate about politics. Sometimes I try to stay out of it because of what we do and what even with this event it's not a political event. But I want to encourage your listeners. If you're out there and you 100% agree with any politician, then you might need to look at that. If you 100% disagree with any politician, you might need to look at that. I really think that we need to get back to a point in our society where I can disagree with you politically and we can still have a civil conversation. Politics has gotten way too political, and it's been, for the last 4 or 5 years now, it's party over people. And we need to get back to a country where it's people over party and politics, and be able to agree to disagree and find happy ground where we can make a true effort to make this country what it was founded to be. And we are a great country. And what's crazy is those people like, make America great again. I think we're the greatest country that obviously we're great because everybody wants to come here.
Right.
And so we're doing something right. But I think we need to stop the hate. I think we need to even step back and say, what can I do? What can I say to make things better? It doesn't always have to be an argument.
Right. I completely agree with you, and it's a situation where I'd like to see the objective truth prevail. And all too often, I think we get swept up into whomever said something, and we latch on to that, we run with it, and we as citizens, I think, have to do a better job on our own of just vetting some of that. I'm not talking about any particular politician here. I'm talking about across the board, regardless of party affiliation. It doesn't really matter. But the truth's got to matter again. And unfortunately, our media tends to become more than just reporting objective news, and they look more like opinion. That's what we do on this show. We provide opinion.
But that's when people tune into your show, they know that you're an opinion-based show.
Yeah.
I was in media. I went to school to be a reporter, a journalist, whatever. I went to school to do that. And one of the things that we learned is it wasn't as important about what we thought about, but getting the news right.
Yeah.
And now it's more opinion based. It's and my thing is pick a politician. I don't care which one it is. If Donald Duck was in charge of the boat, and we said, you know what, we want that boat to fail. We want Donald Duck to fail. Well, he's the captain of the boat. And if the captain fails, then the boat fails, so then we all fail.
Yeah.
And so we should want to live in a country where we may not agree, but we want the best for the country, whatever gets us to that direction. And I think a lot of times if you and I don't know, I listen to your show all the time, so I kind of know how you feel. But if you and I disagree, but we can talk about it, there may be somewhere that we find out that we do agree. And then work on that. And once we work on that, go further.
It's a great point. We just had on a political science professor from Jackson State and a couple of students earlier this week, and man, that was so refreshing because I point blank asked both the students, are you being subjected to only one point of view, and are you allowed to engage in civil discourse from a variety of viewpoints, and they affirmed with the latter. And we got to do that, especially those young minds, to teach critical thinking. Hear all points of view, make your own mind up.
Well, and to be able to hear, I actually heard parts of those interviews, and those kids actually were more respectful and more. To me, I respected them more than most of the politicians that we have out there today.
They may have a future in politics, both of those folks.
I think they did an awesome job. They represented.
Thanks for saying that. I agree.
Well, they represented their families well. They represented their school well. And I appreciate you guys being out here. And hate you can't hang out with us for the rest of the night and meet.
Scott Burns, co-founder, 7 Days for the Troops. We're out of here today. Stay safe, and God bless everyone.
Y'all have a great day. Thank you.
Have you been seriously injured? Mama Justice is here for you. Our medical team partners with top-notch doctors, surgeons, therapists, and urologists, ensuring a comprehensive recovery journey. If you've been injured, call Mama Justice today. We're here for you.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.